fully aware that Michael Cohen, when his case against Donald Trump, used AI Bard to prepare a legal case. Before I do a video about the law, I'll use Chat GPT and ask it questions. What were the cases that Judge Boesberg referred to? He was, when he issued his 45-page ruling, he's going to hold the Trump officials in contempt of court, and they need to cure that contempt by abiding by his orders. And his orders were to return the Salvadorian national from El Salvador back to the U.S. because he said so. It was issued too late. It was unsigned. There was a bunch of issues with it. And not only that, the Supreme Court overturned Judge Boesberg, but Judge Boesberg has ignored the Supreme Court and demanded that that be cured. And he had cited a case, U.S. versus Peters, federal case, where the state of Pennsylvania, it was 1795. The state of Pennsylvania said, we don't have to follow federal orders because we're a state. We're a sovereign state. The Supreme Court ruled at the time that no, states have to follow federal orders. Well, Judge Boesberg referred to that case saying the executive has to follow judge's orders. The statement was judge orders have authority and they must be followed. In the U.S. versus Nixon, which was when Nixon got in trouble, the CIA set him up. Nixon refused to comply with a subpoena, and the Supreme Court ruled in U.S. versus Nixon that the executive branch had to respond to a subpoena. They were required to do that. Judge Boesberg didn't refer to that case in his 45-page ruling, placed the executive branch under the authority of the judicial branch. Nobody's above the law. So Judge Boesberg has required the Trump administration to comply with his orders, even though the Supreme Court has said he's in the wrong jurisdiction. He has no jurisdiction over those orders anyway. Stated this case saying, well, regardless of what the Supreme Court said, they still have to comply with the judicial order. They need to cure the contempt, which means they have to go to El Salvador and grab that Salvadorian MS-13 guy and bring him back here. Judge Boesberg, I think, is out of his lane. Not only is he out of his mind, he's out of hair, but he's out of his lane and he's out of his mind. He doesn't have that authority to do that. But until somebody stops him, Andy Biggs had basically said with a majority vote, if judges are not acting in good faith, and obviously Boesberg's not acting in good faith, he's acting for his Democrat puppet masters to go after Trump and whatever it takes. He says by majority vote of Congress, they can remove him, even though it's a lifetime appointment for a federal district judge. A guy out of Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas, another congressman, I want to say Andy Gibb, but that's not his name. He's pursuing an actual impeachment. And impeachment requires 2/3 vote in the Senate, which is no way that's going to happen. The Democrats will always support a judge that's opposing Donald Trump. Bottom line is this, is Judge Boesberg thinks his orders are still good and the Trump administration has to follow them. He's holding them in contempt if they don't follow them. And he's citing a case of 1795 that says judicial branch has authority over states as his judicial branch has authority over the executive branch, which is not right. Even though in U.S. versus Nixon, where he didn't refer to, says that the judicial branch does have authority over the executive branch. They have to comply to subpoenas. Judge Boesberg is facing cases of impeachment, of removal from office by majority vote. He's got a couple things. They're coming after him as he's going after them at the same time. Kind of an interesting, push and pull. It's government drama. It doesn't really mean anything. Supreme Court's all going to rule in Trump's favor. Judge Boesberg doesn't have the authority. He's not going to have. It's not going to work out that way. They threw Peter Navarro in jail for contempt. They threw Steve Bannon in jail for contempt. They're grasping at straws, try to stop the Trump train that's just blowing through them all, making Doge happen, revealing everything. They can't stop it. Their only hope is this judge who randomly gets assigned all these cases from Donald Trump, which is bullshit. There's 15 judges in the district court where Judge Boesberg is, and the odds that Judge Boesberg keeps getting every Trump case after another against all odds. What's that Phil Collins song? The U.S. Federal District Court is also that court that has 5 judges that weren't even born in the United States. That federal district has already been corrupt. The foreigners are already taken over. Trump's fighting back for us, and they're fighting back for the government. And in the end, the people win, not the government, because there's more of us than there are of them.